Right, our friends, welcome back to the Banter Show. And today we're on location. We're on location in a beautiful, very old cottage in Slieve Gullion, friends. Yeah, Slieve Gullion in the beautiful South Armagh of Ireland. So we're joined with the one, the only, good friend Maura Erskine, singer, opera singer, Celtic singer, composer, actress, artist. The list goes on, friends. But we're going to talk to Maura. For the benefit of our viewers, Maura, tell us who Maura Erskine is.
Well, I was born in Belfast. My father was the headmaster of St Patrick's School in Donegal Street. He was also the organist of St Patrick's Church, and he was the organist right through the war. He never took any time off during the bombing and everything. He was devoted to the church. He actually designed and built the organ in the church.
Wow.
And I was, at the age of 5, I started to play the organ and sing in the church. And I would play the organ for the children's services and sing also for the solo for the children's services. And then I went to school on the near the Limestone Road in the Holy Family, and I used to sing at Christmas in the Holy Family Church. And I was so small, they put me on a chair on the altar and I sang for everybody, and to me it was a perfectly normal, natural thing to do. So that was the beginning of my actual musical career.
Oh, wee. I'm impressed. Now you let me, Maura kindly let me hear a recording earlier on when you were maybe just less than 14, 13, and around 13, right, 14 right. years of age, recorded in Belfast.
In St Patrick's Church.
In St Patrick's Church. I'm telling you now, it gave me goosebumps, or goose pimples as they call them here in Ireland. Maura, that's an incredible, you could hold a note and you could hold it for most of the day if required.
Well, maybe.
You know, but you've had a long and successful, varied career, haven't you?
I was very lucky and very blessed. I had a natural talent which I couldn't understand, but at the age of 10 I started to be a regular performer on the BBC Children's Art programme, and I did that regularly, and that was quite frightening because it was a live broadcast all over Northern Ireland, and then I got very used to doing things like that, so I was nothing really shocked me or put me off, and I found that great help in my career, having started so young and being so exposed at an early age. And it was wonderful. When I was I used to record for the Belfast City Hall every year. There were records made by local churches, and I made a recording every year, and it was played twice an hour. And when I was going to school, I could hear it blaring all over the centre of Belfast City, thinking, I know that voice. That sounds familiar. Oh my goodness, it's me. But and then when I was at school, when I did my final exams, I went to the Dominican College on St Dominic's. I was very proud to be there. Mary McAleese went there, actually.
Oh,
great lady. And anyway, I was given a very major award to go and study music at the Royal College of Music in London.
And then, Maura, tell us about London, when you moved to London.
Well, I was a country bumpkin. I went to London and absolutely knew no one. And I went to the Royal College of Music, and they were all very important people, and I felt so unimportant. But I was there for 4 years, and then I started to do a lot of acting and opera, and I was having such a wonderful time. And then in my last year I met my late husband, who was a lawyer, and I was given the choice when I left the college with the major. I won the Clare Butt Prize for the top singing prize at the Royal College of Music, and I was given the choice, would I get married and have a family, or go on with a musical singing career? And I decided there was no choice. I wanted to have a family, and so I gave music up totally and didn't sing again for about 10, 12 years. And I thought, when I was sort of like late 20s, I thought, well, I wonder if I could sing again. And so I started. And then everything started to happen again, which was wonderful.
Have you just picked up your career?
Just picked it up. I don't know how it happened, but it did. And so I started singing in church, which always was probably my great love. And I sang in Wimbledon, in the beautiful church in Wimbledon. And then I formed a quartet with another singer and two instrumentalists. And we did the most wonderful concerts for charity. And that was great fun. But I then developed a problem with my thyroid, and I had to have an operation. And I thought, that's it, I'll never sing again. So I couldn't speak. I just couldn't speak. It was very difficult in those days. So my colleague came to see me in the hospital and said, we have a concert in 6 weeks. You've got to be ready for it. And I said, but I can't even speak. How am I going to sing? So I just decided if he had faith in me, I was going to do it. So I went to a cave down in Cornwall, and I went into the cave and I started to build my voice, semitone by semitone, and the sound was absolutely ghastly. But then, after a little while, it started to sound all right. So then I started singing concerts again, and then it was again having a wonderful time, singing in places like St. John Smith Square in London, and all the major cathedrals and churches, and even places like Hever Castle, and I was doing the most exciting things. And I was going to sing in St. Margaret's, Westminster. I'll never forget it, for an Italian opera company. And I had an accident. I had a car accident, and that was it. No voice, sternum broken. Again. So this is the second time my voice was...
That is unbelievable.
It's true. And that was the second time my voice was taken away from me, when I was right at the very pinnacle. And so I thought, that's it. I've had it now. And then I thought, well, maybe not. So, so I started to work on my voice again. And then I thought, well, what shall I do? I've got all this knowledge of medieval music and Tudor music. And so what I did was I started to sing in the famous Tudor palaces, like Hatfield Palace, where in fact The Favourite has just been filmed. I was one of their main singers, and Hever Castle, and all sorts of castles. And I would take the music of the period and the place and perform it. And it was such a joy. I worked with the most wonderful musicians, early music musicians, and I'd have big chitteronis and all sorts of things I couldn't even spell. And I absolutely had an absolutely wonderful time. And then I auditioned for a big show in London, and I was given the main part of Queen Elizabeth I. So that was the beginning of my performing as historical characters. But then when I was doing it, I had to know about the characters. I had to know about what they performed. So I performed the music of the Elizabethan period, and that was incredible. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then that show, I opened a second show in London, and that was very successful. And the man who was my director boss, he opened in America, and he asked me to go for a year. By this time, my husband sadly had passed on.
Oh no!
And it was after his death that I decided that my sons were growing up, and they were at university, and they were all doing very well. And I thought, well, maybe I could just have a life, you know. And so I went off to America and did a tour of Canada and performed in Florida for a year. And then in my last year in Florida, I was performing at other concerts as well. I decided, well, I was a bit homesick, and so I thought, well, why can't I describe this homesickness I feel? And so I thought, well, maybe I could write. And so I started to compose. And just one thing led to another. And I thought, what shall I compose about? What do I love most? I love Ireland.
Your home.
My home. And so I thought, what I'll do is I'll start writing about Slievegullin and the whole of the Slievegullin area. And I did it, and I wrote it in 6 weeks. And then
Wow.
I met a wonderful man who was incredibly gifted and a genius. And so we worked together. And he did the orchestration and I did all the composition and the scene. And I used my voice like a paintbrush. I thought, I'll be the paintbrush, I'll be the brush and paint the pictures. So I wrote a piece called Around the Ring of Gullin, and it was very well received. And then I met a gentleman who was a great authority on the great Hugh O'Neill, who was one of my heroes. And so I wrote something, he said, I'd like to write a play about it, I'd like to do something about it. So we collaborated.
Yes.
And we wrote The Flight of the Earls, which became very well known, and it was broadcast all over America and serialized.
Wow.
And that was great. So when I came back from America, and I was thinking, what else shall I do? And I looked from my cottage, I can see the whole of the Mourne Mountains. It's quite spectacular. And I'm at the very bottom of Slievegullin. I'm really quite high up. But I thought, now why don't I start and write about the Mourne Mountains? So I did. And then I brought out another work called Ring of Mourne. And that was all about the history and the legends and characters and everything. And it was just such a joy.
Wow.
But I mustn't forget, it was my brother had written a book called Mourne, which was a #1 bestseller. And he sold every single copy that he ever produced.
Goodness.
And I actually set his book to music.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
and so all the pictures on the DVD are from his, well, a lot more as well. But it was just everything fell into place, and I was so lucky, so lucky. So now, at this time in my life, I'm beginning to look around thinking, what shall I do now?
What's next for Maura? What is next?
And I want to do, I have already written about the Irish potato famine, which my ancestors all came through. And you know, it was very strange. I never heard one of them mention the famine. I think it was so painful that they didn't want to remember.
Something they didn't want to talk about even.
They didn't want to talk about. And even in America, when I meet people, and I know they've come over during the famine, they don't know anything about it.
No.
And it's heartbreaking.
There's not many records either. No.
Absolutely.
Not many records, you know.
Absolutely.
Tough time for innocent people.
Innocent people.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, friends, what we have, we've got some of Maura's. I love your creativity. I love this lady's creativity, friends. We're just going to give you a quick look. So you have them all in my kit. And yes, I have your Erskine. Look at this. So there's the Flight of the Earls. That's it there.
That's the story.
We're going to give you a look at that. Look.
That's with the story.
That's with the story.
Yes.
Here's Around the Ring of Gullin. Another great composition.
And the interesting thing about that one
Yes.
is that is the lake at the top of Slievegullin Mountain.
At the very top.
At the very top, yes.
It would take you a while to get up there, wouldn't it?
It would have to be taken up by a stretcher.
I think we'll hire
Dropped.
We'll hire a helicopter. And here's the DVD, Ring of Mourne. And just for anybody out there, hotels, B&Bs, guest houses, these, I have to say, and this is Around the Ring of Gullin, friends, these particular pieces, they're absolutely beautiful. The background music, for the tourist industry, these, I've never heard anything like them.
Well,
They're absolutely beautiful.
The musical pictures. I take, everything is original. And all the stories are very well. I love the research. So everything on these DVDs is true.
Yes.
And there's a wonderful, wonderful story here which really touched me greatly. And it's called Fanny Bell. And it's the story of the great tragedy of the coast at Kilkeel and Newcastle in 1843, when the fishermen...
So the fishermen of Kilkeel?
So the fishermen of Kilkeel, well, Annalong actually, they went out to fish, And suddenly, which is very unusual in this area, a hurricane came down in the mountains, and the people on the shore could see that the men were in great trouble, and they couldn't get to them to save them, and they were in fishing yawls. And so I think, I don't know, 12 or 14 men jumped onto their little skiffs, and they went out to help them, and they were all drowned. And in the beautiful village of Annalong, and I think Kilkeel, are widows' cottages that were for the widows. And I was so moved by that story that I got the newspapers from the Times, so I was able to find out how many people died. And there was a young girl called Fanny Bell, engaged to a young man, and she was a beautiful girl, and she was up on the cliff watching all this dreadful thing, and her fiancé, he was drowned.
He sadly lost his life.
I wrote a piece called Fanny Bell, and it's very moving. And what I've done on the DVD is I've taken the cottages where they were,
look,
and put them into the piece. And it's I tried to make it really live. And also there's a poem written about her, which I've also used on the DVD. But it brings tears to my eyes even now, because it was such a moving story. And many of those people who were drowned, their descendants are still living and still fishermen in that area. And it's just, all these stories, you know, they're lost. The reason that people didn't remember it so much was because the potato famine came 2 years later. And because of that, it was rather overshadowed, you know.
Yes, yes.
But the place is full of the most moving stories.
It's very historical. All this area.
This area is incredible.
Steeped in history, isn't it?
It's so beautiful.
And these are beautiful, Maura. I have to say, your creativity. That's what I'm talking about there.
My brother took that picture.
Did he?
He did, yes. He took up most of the
That's
pictures.
incredible.
And he took this one here, which is Narrowwater Castle Keep.
Oh, we love the keep. Yes.
I love the keep, and that's a ghost story.
And we've got friends living down there at Narrowwater. Big shout out to all our friends. And a shout out to all our friends all along the coast there, from Kilkeel down along and Newcastle.
Oh,
and,
yes.
you know,
wonderful people.
And these will be available soon on the internet, I take it.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll get more details back to you then. We'll let you know, friends, where and when and how to get these. But if you're, they're so beautiful. The background music is lovely. You get to play it all day long.
Yes.
It really is a stunning, Maura. And I have to commend you on that. Your work
Thank you
is,
very much.
your creativity is fabulous.
Thank you. Well, it's just because, how could you not be creative if living in a place like this?
I mean, you get inspired with the scenery, don't you?
Just to
You get
look
inspired.
at the landscape.
The landscape.
And of course we have Kalibi Castle now, who's my nearest neighbour, and they're opening up quite soon, and that's going to be really wonderful.
I'll tell you, we filmed up there.
Did you?
I was in a film up there, a silent black and white film.
Marvellous.
Me and my son, and it was filmed by a fella called Mark Curran, and it's called Into the Fire.
Oh my goodness.
And there was some spooky happenings in the tunnel underneath that castle.
I know, that's a very old ancient
Something went right through us and blew the candles out. Anyway, we're digressing again.
But they've lit it up. You haven't seen it since
I've seen a photograph of it.
It's breathtaking.
It is stunning.
It's breathtaking. Absolutely breathtaking.
So Maura, these will be available soon.
Yes.
And as I say, from the 60s right up until present day, you've had an amazing life.
I've been really lucky. I've been so lucky.
And you know a lot of people here in Ireland now.
Oh, yes.
You know DJs, you know everybody, musicians, you know everybody. We're having great discussion about who we all, our mutual friends are.
I know.
And it's
Surprised
terrific,
we never
isn't it?
met before.
We ended up on a set together too, didn't we?
We did, yes.
See that? It's amazing. Well, Maura, thanks for telling your story to all our friends on the Banter Show.
Well, it's my pleasure, and thank you very much for watching. And I hope it is.
I hope it inspires some young ladies
Yes,
out there
you
and young
do.
fellas. Go
And
and
to
do
write.
something creative.
And to write.
To write.
And the research now, you can find everything on the internet.
I mean, writing doesn't cost you money.
It doesn't.
It just costs you.
Absolutely.
It costs you your brain power.
Especially young people.
Yes.
Yes.
So get creative, get inspired, and get working. Isn't that it, Maura?
Thank you so much.
So from me and Maura, it's an absolute
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you. Thank
and
you.
thanks for talking to us here on the
Enjoyed
Banter
every
Show.
moment.
And
Thank you.
we enjoyed the banter with you. So friends, you know there, Craig, from me and Maura, Riser. We're out of here.